It is my pleasure to bring up a man that needs really no introduction, so I'm not going to spend any time introducing him. I would go by now where this individual is and what he's done from an innovation standpoint, thought leadership, just really driving technology, artificial intelligence throughout the world. Jensen, I will use one name come up because last name is not needed with this gentleman. So welcome, Jensen. I would just say, very proud to call Jensen a friend, a great partner, and someone that I look at as a mentor, looking at how he's leading the AI revolution and how he's leading his organization. So we'll just grab a seat.
Worldwide Tech.
Thank you. So Jensen, so great to have you here. We have a great group of customers here, partners, and I will also say we have some of our esteemed golfers here that actually, I'm not sure how many events we've had in the past, but I don't remember a lot of the professional golfers coming up to me and saying, hey, can I get into the event? And I was like, well, certainly you can. So you're attracting
I've
everybody.
seen a lot of customers before. This doesn't look like customers. You guys are all too well dressed to be customers.
We would consider them friends.
Yes.
Friends and partners. And just great to be here with you. So
Great to be here.
You know, just so many things going on right now. It's such an exciting space. So first of all, I do want to thank Jensen, and I've said it before, for taking the time to come here. He's all over the place. Been in over in Asia, Taiwan. You were, India speaking, and again, the venues are normally could be 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people that you're speaking to. So to come here and speak with us in a really intimate setting means a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to our customers, partners, and friends here.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I've been looking forward to it.
Maybe you could just take it from, a little bit of the past, the present, and the future. And I know that's a lot, but so much has changed. Even you've been driving NVIDIA for 30 plus years now, but so much has changed, even in the last 3 or 4 years. So maybe you could just frame up from your view how much has changed and why in the last several years to where we are today, and where you think things are going. And I know that's a lot, and we can take breaks, and I can give a perspective, but really, I know they really want to hear me talk, but they don't. So I would just like to, maybe you can share with them that past, present, future, where you think so.
Well, it is an extraordinary time. We are reinventing the computer for the first time since it was introduced, largely in 1964. The IBM System 360, the architecture of that IBM system, it's the most famous computer the world's ever built. It created, as a result, the most valuable company in the world, IBM. IBM System 360 introduced the idea of central processing unit, multitasking, the separation of software and hardware with a layer called operating system, I/O subsystems, architecture compatibility, family compatibility. All of the concepts that govern the computer industry today was really introduced in literally one press release in 1964. It's an unbelievable thing. And that basic system ran out of steam about a decade ago, and that was the idea of our company, was to invent a new way of doing computing, as the general purpose computing was going to run out of steam. And one of the benefits of what we invented results in, when you create amazing computing technology, it effectively drives down the cost. And so if you will, many of you might have heard of the word Moore's Law. Moore's Law is an incredible technology force, and it created the modern technology industry. It doubled in performance every year and a half, but the easier way to think about that is it increased in performance by 10 times every 5 years. So every time, if it's 10 times every 5 years, every 10 years, 100 times. So Moore's law was improving the performance of technology of computing by about 100 times every decade. You invert that, and the reason for that is because deflationary technology is what creates an abundance. It was the fact that we took our industry, drove the cost of computing down by 100 times every 10 years, that today you have these supercomputers in your pocket called iPhones. And what we did was, over the course of the last 10 years, reduce the cost of computing or increase the performance of computing by 1 million times. So 1 million times is a lot bigger than 100, as you can imagine. And the way to think about that is what would happen if you could travel somewhere 100,000 times faster or 10,000 times faster? It would change everything about how you think about the problem. And so if you were to go lift something and it's all of a sudden 10,000 times lighter than it used to, or you go do something and you could do it with 10,000 times more scale than you could, how you see the world completely changed. And to the point where we invented this new way of doing software called machine learning. You could just literally take all of the observed data in the world, you give it to a computer, and this computer is about the size of this room, would study all of the data in the world and say, figured it out. This is how the world works. That is ChatGPT. Literally took all of the data in the world on the internet, and over the course of several months, looked for patterns and relationships that eventually understood words and vocabulary and syntax and grammar, and then you gave it multiple languages at one time, and it figured out how to correlate. Well, I don't know French, but dog and chien. I think in French, dog is chien, right? And so dog and chien are really the same word. It figured out how to first of all, understand the languages of both, but it also correlated the two to the point where you could now translate. And so we created this architecture that is now a universal translator. And now you figured out if you could do it for language, but what if I could do it for images? And you correlate this patch of pixels that appears to look like a dog with the word dog. And when you can do that, then when you're shown an image of a dog, you say dog, and when you say the word, when you type in the word D-O-G, it now generates an image of a dog. And that idea, of course, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, Sora, now we can do it in video. And so then you say, okay, well, if we created a system that can do that, what if we taught it a whole bunch of other types of digital information, like, for example, chemicals and proteins and video and 3D and fluid dynamics, and now, because you understand the meaning of all of these things, you can understand the meaning of a protein. And you could say, I would like you to generate a protein. And it would take a sequence of amino acids, and it would turn it into the 3D structure of a protein. And when you can understand the 3D structure of a protein, you understand its function, what it's for. And that just won a Nobel Prize. That is, that's DeepMind's AlphaFold. And so I just gave you some examples of what you can do, but the big idea here is that we've now learned the language of almost everything. We learned the language of images and videos and, of course, language, human language and proteins, and we could also translate it to anything. And so for anybody who's interested in starting a company, what I just described to you is a framework to think about what can you do now that you couldn't do before. And so, for example, you guys are doing golf. Let's say that you would like an AI just to record everybody's rounds, and instead of somebody going through the videos and trying to figure out which one of the segments were interesting and told the story of the round, you just have an AI watch the video, and the AI will watch the video and say, this is interesting. And from that video, it would generate the captioning. From the captioning, it could even voice over it, generate words, generate speech. And so you would go from, I said earlier, from amino acid to protein. Why can't you go from video to speech? And video to speech would basically be somebody who is a commentator talking about a round of golf. And it would only talk about the important things. It's interesting because if you could create that AI, after as you're watching that video, you might say, what did this player, how did Jim do in the last hole? So you would literally talk to the AI, and the AI would talk back and say, the last hole, Jim did this and that. And so from this framework, you could see the Cambrian explosion of startups. And hundreds and thousands of startups are showing up because of this translation, this framework. But the important idea that I wanted to end up with is this. We reinvented the computer, whereas we used to code software, we now do machine learning. And so instead of humans, programmers, writing software, we now have computers write the software. Instead of developing software, we're now using machine learning to create AIs. And that is the big transformation of our industry, that we're not making software anymore, we're now producing intelligence. And the production of intelligence has created a whole new layer of industry. And this layer of the industry, what it's going to augment is, measured in trillions, not in billions. And that's the remarkable thing about what we've built.
No, it's fascinating to see, all the things going on. We talked about, we're just starting this phase of translating, words to images, images to words, different languages. You think about, on the medical side, from cells to literally cures, outcomes that you're going to deliver. Maybe for the group that we're looking at, we talked a bit about, we're in such the early stages also that this has really come to life with ChatGPT. And people, I would look at it individually, everybody has been able to create your own account, right, to it. You can see the power of it. Now we're moving into the power of business, the power of driving efficiencies, opportunities, differentiation. So maybe you could touch on a little bit of where do you see it today and where do you see it going around changing the way organizations operate? And think about individuals also and businesses. We talked about agents. Everybody will have their own agent, maybe personally, but also as a business. And then, avatars and agents that individuals may have. So Jensen, maybe kind of share a little bit of your view of where this is going and how it may be impacting businesses and individuals as we move forward.
Well, let's make it, first of all, take a step back and ask ourselves, when we use, what is the miracle of ChatGPT and these large language models? The miracle is that we all know how to use it. That's actually the miracle. The miracle is that we can all interact with it, and what are you really doing? Well, we used to program computers. Now you program AIs. And AIs are easy to program. You just tell it what you want. And if you're not sure, it takes a swing at it anyways. But it could also ask you, I'm not exactly sure what you mean, and you need to be more precise. And you might not even know exactly how to ask it to do what you want it to do, and you literally say that. I would like to ask you to do this. I would like to ask you to write me a Python program that sorts, 1,000 numbers. And I don't know how to ask you to do that. Teach me how to ask you to do that. It'll even come back and ask you and teach you how to ask it to do it so that it can do it. Are you guys? And so this is the miracle. And so what did I, in that interaction, what just happened? I programmed an AI to write a program that the computer can run. Okay? And so this is no different than you asking a software programmer to do that on your behalf. Now, that's software, but it could be almost anything. It could be review this document, it could be write me a contract, it could be create a vacation plan that, it could be anything. And so the first thing that we should observe is that we close the gap of technology. Programming a computer is really in the hands of, call it 10 million people. 10 million people out of 8 billion people in the world knows how to program computers. And yet 100%, we can do the thought experiment. I'm certain 100% of you can use ChatGPT to fairly good effect. And so that's the first thing to observe, is that the technology barrier is now gone. Now let me go to the other extreme now, and let's do another thought experiment. What would working be like someday? It would likely be my experience with working. And so my experience, I work in one of the most advanced, one of the most capable computer science company the world's ever known. And I'm surrounded by 32,000 people. And the way I interacted with them, of course, there's a lot of face-to-face, but most of my interactions are through Outlook. And Outlook, I see all these little dots, and some of them are literally faces, and some of them are cartoon faces, and so on and so forth. In the future, many of those little dots will just be AIs. And that AI somebody would be good at marketing campaigns, somebody would be good at sales campaigns, somebody's really good at customer service, somebody's good at software programming, chip design, system engineering, somebody is a really good mechanical engineer, and they're working with a whole bunch of other mechanical engineers and so on and so forth. And I'm hoping that I'm surrounded by these super agents that are so good at what they do, that I can give it almost any mission, any dream, and I can come up with big ideas about what we would like to achieve. And what's the amazing thing is, I would assign that mission today. We would assign it to somebody. I would assign that mission to an agent, to an AI agent. That AI agent would invite a whole bunch of other friends, other agents. Some of them are biological, some of them are digital, and they'll come up with a plan, and they'll come back and pitch the plan to me, just like they do today, and we'll break it down and improve it, and we work together as a team, and then goes off and does the job. And so if that's the future, then we just got to work our way back and say, how do we go create that future?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit in the back. Obviously, our teams work together in a big way. So many exciting things going on, but kind of going back, we see now, and correct me if I'm wrong if you agree or disagree, you think about ChatGPT, you think about some of the large language models that all of us here can go out and you have the ability to go exercise that, use those, ask it in really interesting, compelling things to do and information and ideas, and it keeps getting smarter and smarter. You see how fast those models are changing, the versions are going up and the capabilities. But then within the companies, as Jensen has mentioned, we see this capability that organizations have to build their own, call it large language models or RAG models, which is really a customized AI platform that you're going to build on an NVIDIA platform in your company that's going to allow you to literally write APIs into these large language models to deliver these agents at scale within an organization. And that's really what we're seeing, and I'm kind of curious, Jensen, give your perspective. But we're in the really early stages of that, and it's really starting to come to life. And those are things that we're seeing. So kind of your view, maybe a little more color on how you see that transitioning over the next 6 months to a couple of years. Because from my view, from what we even talked about, is like everybody's going to have an agent, and organizations are going to have thousands and thousands of agents. And it's not necessarily going to displace employees. It's going to enable and complement in a lot of ways. So maybe just a little more color on it.
Well, I hope it displaces a lot of my current work. And what I mean by that is, very honestly, there are no agents that we know, no AIs that we know that could replace 100% of anybody's job. But we know of many agents that can replace 80% of the things that we do. Well, nothing would give me more joy than to have something do 80% of what I do today, so I can go find 80% more things to go do. That's the definition of productivity: do more with less. And so, and of course, we would like that to happen for all of our employees. And we have AIs all of our companies today to write software, help us design chips, help us design systems, and they all tend to be inward focused because we could develop the technology inside, and if it doesn't work that well, we still have excellent engineers to override their decisions and their suggestions. Now, as the technology gets better, we're starting to get to a point where we could use it for outward-facing work, and outward-facing work would be marketing campaigns, sales campaigns, customer service, so on and so forth. The way to think about a good mental model for thinking about AI is the same exact way you think about employees. The first thing you have to do is you have to onboard them. And there's a way of onboarding AIs. You give it a whole bunch of data that's specific to you, to your company, and the work that you're trying to do. Many examples, you show your employees, this is the way we talk in our company, these are our core values, this is the functionality of your job. These are examples of work products that we would like you to create. This is a source of all the resources that you can get your approved to go use. And then within that boundary, you have to go do that work. And so you train the AI to do that. There's a methodology for doing that. You evaluate the AI, just like we evaluate employees. We guardrail them, and just like we guardrail employees. After we onboard somebody in the accounting department, we don't say, please don't, well, I don't know what you tell accountants not to do. Don't talk to customers.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to use that. Where's our finance folks?
Like, for example,
No, so that's a joke.
You're an engineer. Don't talk to customers. And you're in sales. Don't launch products. And so we guardrail them, and they're AI technologies for guardrailing things. And then there's a flywheel for continuous improvement, and so on and so forth. And so these everything that I just described is a whole bunch of other AIs. Yeah. And these other AIs are helping us onboard AIs, fine-tune AIs, so on, evaluate AIs, guardrail AIs, improve AIs. And so all of this is kind of like a framework for employees. Yeah. And my sense is that what is likely to happen is that we'll have two very significant workforces inside companies. One that are biological, they're made of meat, and the other ones they're made of electrons, and flesh and bones. I mean, and we'll have both, and then they'll work together, and they'll work with each other. Yeah.
No, and it's fascinating to see that. Maybe talk a little bit about your vision and maybe the ecosystem to enable this within organizations, because you talk about NVIDIA, we talked about in the back where, and I truly believe this, Jensen does not look at NVIDIA, even though it's now, you look at top, first, second, bouncing around, largest market cap company in the world. So just an amazing job, honestly. I mean this, and I know it, and Jensen knows I don't say this, stroking Jensen on this, but he will go down as one of the great innovators of our lifetime, and really a great leader. I mean, a great leader that is maniacal in regards to his focus on innovation and drive, and really a good person from a humility perspective too, very humble and driven. And it's kind of fascinating. Maybe you can give a little of your perspective on how you look at the market, because you really don't
feel like that's where we should end.
Yeah. How you look at the market, because you really don't fixate on like the market cap and the value. You talk about creating markets, not like here's a market and here's competitors and here's how much I can get. I'm looking at creating additional markets for NVIDIA, but also the ecosystem. Talked about, with Jay and the team and Craig, how you're trying to pull organizations with you into this AI journey to drive positive change for our humanity and for business. So maybe a little bit of how you look at that, of being a market maker and not necessarily going at size of a market that's there today.
Yeah, NVIDIA is a market maker, not share taker. We only do things that other people don't do. There's nothing wrong with market share thinking. There's nothing wrong with benchmarking. All of those are good skills to do. I tend to not think about market share, and the reason for that is because in a lot of ways, you have to ask yourself, for what reason are we doing this if there was somebody else who was already doing it? And we've not been around a very long time. We're only 32, 33 years old. And so there were a whole lot of technology companies that existed already by the time that NVIDIA was founded. And so the question is what can we do that's unique, that adds a perspective and a contribution that if we didn't exist, wouldn't exist? And so that way of thinking and the computing model we invented was really unlikely to have been done. And so the company was always, the company's good at thinking, what if the world was like this? What if we could do that? Notice just now I answered a question. My natural inclination is to answer the question from the past and then from the future. The present is the only place that I'm uncomfortable. If you ask me what's going to happen tomorrow, I have no clue. If you ask me what's going to happen in 10 years, I have a lot of confidence. And if you ask me what happened 10 years ago, I'll tell you I don't remember. But the reason why I have a lot of confidence in that is because you reason from first principles and the limits of physics. And if you look far out enough, you don't have to worry about the challenges of getting there. You just have to you just imagine being there. And so I am completely certain that humanoid robotics is going to be here. And there's first principle reasons for that. Because we understand something about the technology breakthroughs that we've invented. I am now certain that it will be created. I am certain why it's going to be helpful. And so now you have these certain concepts, and for example, I'm certain my outlook is going to be the way I described. I am certain that when I'm writing emails, sometimes I'm writing an email to a biological employee, sometimes I'm writing an email to an artificial employee. I'm certain of that. I'm certain that my email is going to have a whole bunch of to's and froms, and many of them are going to be intermixed. And none of them are going to know. And we're all going to be exchanging information in however we exchange information today. And so once you live in that future, then the question is, how do you get there? Do you like that future? Is that going to be helpful to the industry? Is that going to be helpful to the world? Is that going to be helpful to the society? And then you work your way back. And I find that always to be more helpful. And that future usually doesn't include that person is doing it, so let's take it from them. It usually starts with, it hasn't been done before. And so I always find that thought model is helpful to me. And then since it doesn't exist, then it's very likely that the ecosystem of partners don't exist. Then you have to go find friends to help you do it. And I don't have to go do everything myself. I just want to make sure it's done. And so, and I actually, like to do as little as possible, frankly. And so when then that future needs friends, and of course, in many of the areas where we have enterprise AI, industrial AI, WWT is just an incredible friend, and that's why our partnership is so great.
Yeah, and it's exciting for worldwide when we just look at the opportunity and just the go-to-market for NVIDIA.
I was going to say worldwide, but I heard Sarah come up and she said WWT.
Yeah, we're
so what are we going with here?
We're confused.
WWT? Really? Okay. So here's I think it's actually worldwide, but Sarah wants it to become WWT. That explains all the logos outside.
What Sarah says goes. So that's
I'm with Sarah. So, okay, no. WWT.
Yeah, but so why don't I would say just in the spirit of you know, it's special to have Jensen here, and I don't want to hog the kind of the mic up here. So maybe we'll open up to some of the audience.
Sure.
And I know Jensen actually enjoys the free-flowing questions. So we've got a shy guy over there, Mr. DeWalt, first time with a mic in his hand.
I have to tell you, I'm much more comfortable with a whole bunch of engineers in the room.
Well, he kind of covers both. So,
Okay. All right.
Hey, first of all, I just say how inspiring it is to see the two of you up here. What is it, 30 plus years, both of you grinding away and building incredible businesses. So congratulations. It's a great moment.
Thank you.
I don't know if you know this, Jensen, but I've been in cybersecurity for 25 years and fighting the bad guys for a lot of time at McAfee, Mandy, and FireEye. Talk about putting fingers in the dike, right? I mean, the bad guys have been winning a lot. Until I've seen kind of through your eyes to NVIDIA and see the future of what AI can really do. It's pretty cool to like start to see the power of autonomy and what we can do to reverse kind of what the offense can do versus what the defense. My question is, what do you see? I mean, how do we solve some of these threats and risks that we're seeing every day in the world of cyber? And what's NVIDIA's part in that? So
yeah, I appreciate the question. Yeah. First of all, artificial intelligence is going to change the profile of cybersecurity completely, and the reason for that is this. As you know, the issue with cybersecurity isn't, well, there are a lot of issues, but one of the issues with cybersecurity is being overwhelmed by false positives. If you're too stringent on your detection policy, you're just flooded with detections that aren't really cyber threats. And the only way to solve that problem is with humans to go reason about it. To reason about every single one of the detections and ask yourself through other sources of information whether this is actually a threat to be concerned about or not. Well, guess what? That process you can now automate with AI. And as a result, we could tighten up our cybersecurity posture and not be overwhelmed by false positives, because we'll just have a whole bunch of AI cybersecurity agents go and reason about every single one of those and just go, yeah, not an issue. The other thing that is really cool about cybersecurity is that the framework that the industry put together for cybersecurity really likely is going to be the framework we use for AI security. As you know, AI is not one giant model. AI is a system of models. And when we finally deploy AI, we're going to have, for every AI that we deploy, we're going to have probably hundreds of AIs watching over it. No different than air traffic control watches over the planes. No different than inside a plane. There's 3 autopilot systems with 2 pilots. All the planes in the air are watching over each other. Air traffic control watching all of the planes. Not to mention the layers and layers of policies and regulations and methodologies and best practices, so on and so forth. Isn't that right? And that's just for, not just for autopilot, and that's just autopilot. Okay? Now imagine what we're going to do when we deploy autopilot of this type of agent, or lawyers and doctors and accountants and we're going to have all kinds of other agents inside the company that watches over all of the other agents. And so that's going to be one of the agents inside the company is sort of AI employee compliance agents. And so I think the framework that has been created for cybersecurity over the years is really a good one. Notice in cybersecurity, whenever one company has a threat, it's shared with all of the other companies. We're going to do the same thing with AI. And so I think a lot of the work that, on the one hand, your industry is going to help the creation of the AI industry. On the one hand, the creation of AI industries is going to come back and help your industry.
It's kind of interesting also, I would say, that the topic you brought up, Dave actually sits on one of the airline boards. So to use the pilot and the planes as one is very, very near and dear to Dave.
Hello, Jensen. Hello, Jim. My name's Aidan. I have AI in my name, which is handy for today. But question I have is...
That's a blessing or a burden?
A burden, because the only intelligence I have is artificial. But the question I have, Jensen, is when you think about the future of sovereign nations, and you think about strategy and how that's going to change how countries are led and how countries interact with each other, and also access for poor people to be upgraded in a world of abundance, how do you see that playing out? And what's a time frame you think where that can start to really impact geopolitics?
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the question. Excellent. First of all, we're going to take the marginal cost of intelligence down to approximately zero. Even a poor person can afford it. There you go. That's the first observation. And remember, there was a time when well, it still is true. Access to clean water is a great challenge for many countries and many people. Bottled water really revolutionized the access for clean water. Artificial intelligence is going to modernize, if you will, democratize the access of intelligence. It could be radiologists in a small village, tier 4, tier 7 village in Africa or India, or you pick your favorite place. And so I think that working backwards, I think that's one of the great opportunities. With respect to sovereign AI, the observation is this: your country's data belongs to its people. Sovereignty is no longer just the land and the air above it. Sovereignty is also your people, your language, your culture, your history. That's all part of your sovereignty. And it's now encoded digitally into ones and zeros, but nobody ever knew what to do with it until now. So now you could turn that sovereign data, which belongs to you, into your sovereign AI. And every country, no country wants to say, hey, take all the data that belongs to us and import back to us an AI. Everybody wants to process the data themselves, refine it into AI. And so I think this is going to be a new form of national infrastructure, which is, we build this thing called this AI supercomputer, and we call it AI infrastructure, computing infrastructure. It's going to be like energy. It's going to be like communications. It'll be like, part of the national infrastructure in countries. And we're seeing this awakening to sovereign AI all over the world. I was just in Denmark. I was in Sweden. From here, I'm going to go to it's surprising, but Japan, Indonesia, and Thailand. They're all going to build their own sovereign AIs, and that's likely what's going to happen.
Hey, Jensen, thanks for being here. Just a question for you about the future workforce. What advice would you give to high school juniors, seniors as they're trying to create their path?
First of all, I would encourage them to do well in school in all of the areas that school is going to. Everything that we learn is still good. It's all good, and it's not so much that everything we learned was actually correct. As you know, our history books have been. The reason why they give you so many edition, you got to ask yourself. You get a history textbook as edition 27. What happened to the last 26? and who did it contaminate? And so the fact of the matter is, none of that is a problem. Just it's about the learning process. But the one thing that I will say is that everybody should get an AI tutor. I have 3. I use ChatGPT, I use Perplexity, and I use Gemini. And I use all 3 of them on a regular basis. I use them flying down here. And so if I have questions, if I have a thought in my head, if I'm trying to explore some new area and trying to learn something new, the first thing I do is I go to one of those AIs and I ask it a series of questions about the topic I'm about to learn. And I'll start by saying, hey, so explain digital biology and computer-aided drug discovery to me as a 5th grader, as a starting point. And then I'll go, okay, well, explain it to me as a college student. And then after that, I've learned it a few times. Then I can ask. Then the next thing I ask is, what question should I be asking? Give me a framework for how I should be learning about this. And so I'm asking a whole bunch of questions about how to learn, and then beyond that, I can learn it. And it remembers where I left off yesterday, and so I think every student should get a tutor, and that tutor, AI tutor, will teach them how to prompt, how to engage AIs, how to ask an AI to give you the information you need, and so on and so forth. I think that this journey of getting tutors into every student, this could very well be the most revolutionary thing that came out of AI. Okay, but everything that we're learning is great.
Jensen, you know, I would look at it, I even look at where we are today, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this. And my advice to even employees, students, kids, I think a lot of success is going to be around individuals that are curious, that are very thoughtful and know how to ask good questions, inquisitive questions. Because if you think about how even today, and it'll continue to evolve using AI models, you know, Perplexity, OpenAI, it's about learning with that and being inquisitive enough, to, you know, and having that desire to continuous learning and continuous asking and probing. Those are individuals, I think, within our company. I want them to be pushing the models and have a curious mind. If you don't have a curious mind, you're not going to learn. And I think that's one thing for students and for employees, is that we're in a world that if you want to be static, you're going to be in trouble. If you're going to continue, if you have a desire to learn and push and innovate and challenge yourself and be curious, I think you're going to succeed. So
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree.
Hi, Jensen. Scott Everhart with GXO Logistics. We've been talking a lot about a lot of the great things AI will bring to the future to us. The other things that I worry about is on the flip side of that, where you start to think about the bad actors, and we think even about cybersecurity. Well, the bad actors, will they not be also using AI technology to be those attack weapons and be even smarter than they are today, number one? And then number two, what about the energy aspect of this too? When I try to go into certain data centers today, even light up new servers and things like that, sometimes I have problems getting to places that have energy. So all of those two elements, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
There's only one solution to the bad actor problem. And that is we have to go way faster. That there's, you know, for Dave in the cybersecurity industry, worrying about it is the wrong answer. You just got to make sure that you're ahead on cybersecurity technology, and it's not just as it is not likely we lose our job to AI. It's very likely we'll lose our jobs to somebody who uses AI. It's not likely that AI does something to us. It's likely that somebody uses AI to do something to us. And so I think your concern is well placed. And the answer is you got to go fast. Make sure our AI technology is way better than theirs. And we democratize it, meaning it's available to everybody. Okay, and so you could pick on one, you can pick on somebody, but you can't pick on everybody. And so I think your second question was
power.
Energy, yeah. Two answers for that. First of all, you want to think about AI from a longitudinal perspective. The goal is not to train the AI. The goal isn't to go to school. The goal is to apply what you learned. Now, you could teach an AI how to predict physics, like, for example, weather prediction. We've taught an AI how to predict weather almost 10,000 times more energy efficiently than using a supercomputer to do it. Every single country, every single region around the world is running supercomputers right now as we speak to try to figure out what tomorrow's weather is and what next week's weather is, because there might be a storm and somebody just wants to know whether to wear a sweater or not. Okay, and so that supercomputer is running 24/7 all the time. Now we could replace that by teaching an AI the laws of physics. Well, not the laws of physics. You teach an AI the patterns of physics, and then now it could predict it. And people ask me, how could you teach an AI physics? And the answer is actually surprisingly simple. You know, my dogs, we were just talking about my dogs. My dogs don't understand the laws of physics. They don't understand Newtonian physics. They don't understand string theory. But boy, they could catch balls like you can't believe. And the reason for that is because they learn physics by observing it. And we're basically doing the same thing by giving it so much information that it observed the patterns of physics and multiphysics, and it does it even better than principled solvers. Okay, so you have to think about the longitudinal. The goal is not to train the model. The goal is to go discover a new material that could be better for energy capture, better for carbon capture. And we train a model that predicts wells that are better at carbon capture. We want to go create a model that does a better job designing a new material for car. Okay, make cars more aerodynamic, or make wind farms more productive, make electrovoltaic cells more productive. For example, that's the goal. Does that make sense? And so you have to put the AI to school in order to get the benefits out of the AI. And when we deliver the benefits out of the AI, it takes it out of, my goodness, right? If data centers consume, call it 3% or 4% of the world's energy today, you got 96% to go solve for. That's the benefit of AI. And then the last thing that I'll say is this. I hope that the amount of energy that is used for artificial intelligence goes up as a percentage of human consumption over time. And the reason for that, it's currently 4% out of the world's total use. I'm hoping that artificial intelligence is, solid 10, 15%. And the reason for that is, remember what that 96% is doing. The 96% of the world's power is our industries. It's making things. It's moving things around. It's all the things that we need to live. Well, what we would like to do is, instead of producing all of those other things, we'd like to produce intelligence. And the manufacturing of intelligence, we hope, give you the examples that I was mentioning earlier, the positive benefits everywhere else. And so my prediction is that we have invented a new industry. I mentioned earlier that we now produce this thing called intelligence. The idea that we're manufacturing intelligence is a concept that's insanely hard to understand. And so let me give you an analogy. So 300 years ago, there was a machine that was created. Today, that machine's called NVIDIA, but 300 years ago, the machine was created, it was called a dynamo. And people would pour water into this thing, and you light it on fire. And what comes out of it is electricity. And so you apply energy to this thing, to this machine, and what comes out of it is this invisible thing, and the way you pay for the electricity is dollars per kilowatt hours. Okay? Now, we have this new machine, this NVIDIA machine that we build. You apply energy to it, and what comes out of it is tokens that, depending on how you reconstitute these tokens, turns into either words or proteins or videos or, so on and so forth. And, articulation for driverless cars or, whatever it is, okay? And so these tokens that come out as intelligence are monetized dollars per token. Dollars per million tokens, dollars per kilowatt hour. Can you see that? And so this energy creation industry is the beginning of an industrial revolution. We're at the beginning. The reason why Jim and I are so excited about this is we're literally at the beginning of a new industrial revolution. And this new industrial revolution has a new machinery. And this new machinery produces something that's never been produced before, just like 300 years ago. And it's forming these incredible companies. And it's forming all these incredible use cases, just like 300 years ago. When the electricity was discovered, all kinds of new things came out. For example, consumer electronics appliances. The appliance industry didn't exist. That's the reason why GE was making electricity on the one hand, appliances on the other hand. Appliance was the consumption of the energy they were creating. And so in a lot of ways, together between us and WWT.
Did you guys hear that?
This AI is easy to train. And so between us and WWT, we have the agents and so on and so forth, which are essentially, if you will, the appliances that consumes the tokens that are being produced by this factory. And so,
You know, the one
yeah.
I would add, Jensen, is fascinating about that. While I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, I'm like, you know, you
Sounds
think,
like nonsense right now, but in 300 years, I'm just
yeah, no. Well, honestly, that's exactly where I was going with this. You think about how long it took for the energy to literally take hold and scale, and you know, it was in one little pocket of the world, and literally took forever for that energy to be prevalent, ubiquitous around the world. So if you think about where AI is, literally almost overnight, you've created this intelligence that was opened up to the world overnight. So you think how long some of these transformations and these industrial revolution and now the AI revolution that's happening, the difference is, you know, it was
the speed is incredible.
yeah, it's almost unthinkable to compare and contrast the two and the magnitude of change it's going to create in such a period. I mean, I just think that just listening to what you were walking through, and I think about how fast.
The speed of change is going to be unimaginable. So the only advice is engage it as soon as you can. If something is moving super fast, you know, if you have a train that's moving super fast, don't watch it, get on it, you know. And so
Or get out of the way.
here's a rocket ship and it's going super fast. Get on it. Here, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I'm
Right here,
sorry.
back here. Oops, sorry. First of all, amazing. Thank you so much. And I think on behalf of this entire audience and our 401ks, thank you a lot as well, too, giving your stock price. But in all seriousness, you've been talking about the supercomputer. You're talking about how things move so fast. And like today is arguably the slowest day we'll ever see in our lifetime, given how fast things are moving. But when you think about the next generation of the supercomputer, if and how do you think about quantum computing as we start to use that, and whether or not that's going to replace GPU compute, or complement it or assist it?
Yeah, quantum computing is going to be really good at something. So for example, let me give you an example of it. You guys know what a so for example, let me give you an example of what quantum computers are really good at. So suppose we have like a wedding party, like today, like tonight. Well, I'm not sure how you did it, but suppose we had a wedding party, and the wedding party had, you know, let's say 300 people, and you have to figure out what are the best ways to seat 300 people. And there are a lot of complexities, as you could imagine. Some of the people are more important than the others. And like, for example, you know, my college friends, like, they're in the back. Isn't that right? And then your wife's you know, friends, they're in the front. You know, and then for example, and so you got to go through this combination. So it turns out 300 people. The number,
he is human, and he is very smart, but he has to deal with
well,
the same stuff.
Well, I'm trying to explain a complicated idea very simply. And so you have these 300 people. The number of combinations is more than the number of atoms in the universe. Okay? And so you're a computer trying to figure out all the different permutations and all the different combinations, trying to figure out which one is the most optimal. As you know, that computing problem, it will run forever. Or you could ask your mother-in-law. And the reason for that is very simple, because she's going to use artificial intelligence to you know, these people absolutely must sit together. These people absolutely must sit in the front. You know, they brought a really expensive gift, so on and so forth. And then you know, your college friends in the back. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to sort through all that. I just gave you an example of where artificial intelligence can find a perfectly good answer that we thought quantum computers were necessary in the past. And the simple idea is that quantum computer is really good at small data, large combination problems. AI and classical computing doesn't really care. And then number one, number two, the two of them will have to live together someday, because quantum computers are good at certain things and quite poor at many other things. And the big idea is that AI has kind of punted quantum computer down the road by about 20, 30 years. Okay? But we work on quantum computers. We work with just about every quantum computer company in the world because we want it to happen. But it's still going to be a decade or plus, you know, far away from it. Anyways, that's the idea.
Well, Al, now we're not going to get them back for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Now we're not going
Okay,
no,
we'll take an easy answer. How about we'll take an easy question.
No.
Whoever has the last question, the responsibility is high, sir.
Yeah.
Is it that?
You sure you want this responsibility?
Anybody, one last one?
Maybe we can do a lighter question than regulation. As a 30-year veteran in this IT industry, I absolutely love technology and really enjoy watching it how it makes the world better. But also as a father of two, I've also watched in a lot of ways how technologies work to degrade interpersonal skills, humanity, time with people. And you said something interesting earlier tonight when you said you love how AI has given you time back to go do the things you want to do. I just thought maybe you could share a little light into what your vision is of how AI might be able to help our children in the future in terms of the humanity aspect, the interpersonal skills, and a more fun way of life.
Well, I think that I appreciate the question. I think Jim and I kind of approached that topic in a slightly different way, but we both approached it, which is the AI is an instrument of knowledge. Whereas your car is an instrument of moving atoms from point A to point B, the AI is an instrument. It's also an instrument. It's a toaster. It just happens to be a super smart toaster. And you could talk to the toaster about anything you want and ask it to help you do things. And today, of course, the toaster, the AI that it's information-based. But that same AI is about to become embodied as well. Your version of R2-D2 and C-3PO is right around the corner. And I can't wait. I can't wait. And so I know that my AIs are having a dialogue with me on a regular basis and helping me learn and helping me do tasks that in a lot of ways, I find quite arduous. Like, for example, I have to write a lot of speeches. And the context of the speeches are always different. But the core information and my tone is often is the same. And so, I didn't do this today. I just want to let you know, everything here I didn't prepare for. But in many prepared speeches, I'll give it the context. And I'll tell it, these are my themes. And then I'll tell my AI to refer to all of my other writings and all of my other speeches. And I say, write me a 6-minute speech that addresses these points, but highlights the themes behind the things I talk about. And it comes back within 1 second. Literally 1 second later, I have a 6-minute speech. And then from that, I refine it into something that is, hopefully better than what it provided. And oftentimes, it generates one, and I'll say, is that the best you can do? Literally, I just go, ChatGPT, is that the best you can do? And it goes, I can do better. And I love that. I love that. And then it gives me another one. And just to mess with it, since it's the same price anyways, I don't think so. I think you could do even better than that. And comes back with yet another one. And each one of them actually improves on the last one. And then I take that one and I modify it. It saved me a ton of time. Writing speeches is painful and it's arduous, but it's important. And so, those are kind of examples of how I use it. But I think the most important thing is I have a learning partner. I have a little AI that's my R2-D2. That's remembering the things that I'm learning. It's teaching me things, bringing information to me, enriching me, and making me a smarter CEO. So I think for your kids, I would highly recommend that they do that. And I would pay for the professional one. It's only $20 a month, and it's a tutor, literally a tutor for a Christmas present. I would. Right? For every one of them, just give them a Christmas present. Here's your Christmas present, a tutor. They go, oh. I love you, Dad. You're the best dad in the world.
Jensen, I will say, with it getting off, I was talking to a CTO of a large Fortune 50 bank, and the CTO was talking about his son, 5-year-old son, that was literally voice interacting with a large language model and going back and forth about dinosaurs. So he was literally listening or learning about the history of dinosaurs. But then, you get the creativity of a kid that is unlimited. Was talking about, well, what about the big dinosaur with pink hair? And they would literally, all of a sudden, it would kick something back around. So if you think about in ways that, kids have, there is no guardrail around their creativity and how they think. But it was fascinating to me that the individual saying, I was blown away by the interaction that my 5-year-old had with the large language model, how much he was learning around the history of dinosaurs, but also he had no limitations about what he was asking, and it was playing back with him. So I think, from a creativity standpoint and innovation, it really is unlimited. So maybe just in closing out.
Thank you. That was an excellent last question.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that it's a great pleasure working with you, Jim, and your team. And WWT is a fantastic organization. You could tell that WWT was built by hand from the ground up.